Have you ever felt totally, completely stuck on a problem? You're just spinning your wheels. We've all been there. But what if I told you that the best problem solvers aren't born with some kind of superpower? Nope. They just have a better toolkit. And today, we're going to build that toolkit and completely transform how you look at any challenge that comes your way.
So let's meet Steve. This feeling he's talking about, it's so relatable, right? That feeling of just solving the same issue again and again. It doesn't matter if you're a project manager, a developer, or just trying to figure something out in your own life. We've all been in that dark room, trying to jam puzzle pieces together that just don't fit. And here's exactly why that happens. Most of us, by default, take the flawed approach on the left. We see a problem, and our brain just wants to jump straight to a solution. We're busy, right? We want it fixed now. But the real magic, the lasting solutions, they come from the systematic approach. It might feel a little slower at the start, but it's all about getting that clarity before you even think about taking action. So let's talk about that flawed approach for a second, because it's a trap. It's a really, really easy one to fall into. It feels like you're being productive, but most of the time, you're just making yourself busier, not better. And we get stuck for some really common reasons. We leap at the very first idea that pops into our heads. We put a quick bandage on a symptom, but we never actually find out what's causing the wound in the first place. And a big one, we often don't even stop to ask ourselves, what does solved even look like? If any of that sounds familiar, trust me, you are in good company. The good news is, there is a much, much smarter way to do this. And this is where Steve's experienced colleague, Jane, enters the story. See, she doesn't give him a quick fix. She gives him something way more valuable, a framework, a reliable map he can use for any problem. And here it is. It looks pretty simple, right? 5 steps. Define, analyze, generate, evaluate, and implement. Now, the steps themselves are straightforward, but the real secret sauce isn't just what the steps are, it's the order you do them in, and crucially, where you focus most of your energy. And this right here, this is the game changer. Just look at this. The pros, the really effective problem solvers, they spend a whopping 50% of their time and energy on just the first 2 steps, defining and analyzing the problem. Think about that. They know that a well-understood problem is already halfway to being solved. Most of us do the complete opposite. We rush through the beginning and then spend all our time trying to implement the wrong solution. So let's zoom in on that critical analysis phase. This is where you put on your detective hat. It's all about digging past the surface level stuff, the obvious symptoms, to find out what's really going on underneath. Jane gives Steve his first tool for the job, the 5 whys. Now, don't let the simplicity fool you. This thing is powerful. All you do is repeatedly ask why. It's like peeling an onion, layer by layer, until you get right to the very core of the issue. Okay, so let's put it into practice. Here's Steve's problem. It's a classic symptom. My team keeps missing project deadlines. Now, the flawed approach would be to yell, "Everyone work harder," or just cut down on planning. But let's see what Jane's method uncovers. Jane starts with the first, most obvious question. "Steve, why are you missing deadlines?" And he says, "Well, because we're starting projects late." Okay, that's level 1. Jane keeps digging. "And why are we starting late?" Steve thinks for a moment. "Because our planning phase just takes way too long." Okay, interesting, we're getting somewhere. Why does planning take so long? Now Steve is really starting to think. Because we're not really sure what level of detail we're supposed to provide. And why don't you know? Do you see how the problem is shifting now? It's moving away from the process and toward the people. Steve says because different stakeholders all seem to expect different things from the plan. And then Jane asks the final why. And there it is, the big breakthrough, the root cause. Because we've never actually sat down and clarified who makes the decisions and what the approval process is. The problem was never about speed, it was about clarity. The solution isn't work faster, it's let's define our roles. That is the incredible power of proper analysis. Okay, so now that Steve finally understands the real problem, it's time to start thinking about solutions. But to make sure he doesn't just come up with another narrow, half-baked idea, Jane introduces him to another amazing tool. One that's designed to make you see a challenge from every possible angle. And that tool is the 6 thinking hats. The idea here is that you metaphorically put on different colored hats, and each hat forces you to think in a very specific way. It's a brilliant method to get you and your team out of your usual thinking ruts and ensure you get a full 360-degree view. For instance, if Steve's team puts on the white hat, they're only allowed to talk about facts. No opinions, no gut feelings. Just the pure, cold data. What do we know for sure? How long does our current process actually take? Who is involved? Just the facts. Then they might switch to the red hat. And this one is the total opposite. It's all about emotion, intuition, hunches. How does the current process make people feel? Frustrated, anxious, confused. This is incredibly valuable information that you will never, ever find in a spreadsheet. And of course, you've got the black hat. This is your inner critic, the devil's advocate. This hat's job is to poke holes in everything. What could go wrong with our new idea? What are the risks? Could a new process actually make things worse? This isn't about being negative. It's about being prepared and building a bulletproof solution. Now, Steve's story is a fantastic illustration, but the whole point of this is to empower you. So let's pivot from their story and talk about how you can start building your very own problem-solving toolkit, starting today. Here's a super simple, actionable starter kit you can use. If you've got one of those nagging problems that just keeps coming back, try the 5 whys. If you need to brainstorm some creative solutions and you want to make sure you're seeing the full picture, grab the 6 thinking hats. And if you have a complex decision to make with a lot of different factors, a decision matrix is a fantastic tool for bringing clarity. Because that's really the main thing to remember here. This isn't some innate talent people have. Being a great problem solver is a skill. And just like any other skill, you can learn it, you can practice it, and you can get better at it. The only difference between feeling stuck and feeling in control is having a system. So if you found this toolkit helpful and you got some value out of this, I'd really appreciate it if you click that like button, share this explainer with someone else who might need it, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks so much for watching.